and begin with old business by reviewing the minutes of the last meeting. Also, I think we may have some motions for amending the agenda.
Chair O'Brien, this is Kathleen. I would like to suggest to amend the agenda regarding, I think this is a Cowlitz Arts and Education. On August 19th, there was an approval to change the title, but there needs to be approval to change the funding scope expansion. So I would like to add that for the council's consideration.
Okay. Any objection to that, council?
We need to make a motion to amend the agenda. I'll move to amend the agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to amend the agenda to include Cowlitz Tribe from the previous for the scope of funding or charitable. Anyway, we'll talk about that in a minute. Are there other amendments?
Yes. Did we vote? Do we need to vote on that one before we do another?
Without objection, I would say we'll amend the agenda. Is there any objection to amending the agenda for this item? Seeing none.
Okay.
Vince?
Yes, I'd like to amend the agenda to add discussing open public comment.
Without objection? Okay, was that a motion? Would you like to make that a motion? Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, without objection, we'll amend the agenda for that item as well. Okay, so let us, I would entertain a motion for approving the minutes of our last meeting.
Move to approve.
Or second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the last meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to, well, that would be, old business then. The first issue would be the Cowlitz Tribe Arts and Education Fund, which we changed the title of that particular fund or foundation. And during that discussion, we did mention changing the scope of the charitable contributions, but we did not, that was not a portion of the memo, or the motion. So I would entertain a motion for that. It really is just broadening the scope slightly for this foundation to take on other important projects in the county.
And for clarification, I think for whoever wants, if you're going to make the motion, it's expanding the scope expansion from education and arts to general charitable purposes.
Madam Chair, I'd move to expand the scope of the fund to general charitable purposes.
I'll second that. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor say aye, please. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Then moving on to this would be old business. Kathleen, the public participation, or is it new business?
This would be old business, as the council
Okay.
did previously discuss how you were going to accept open public comment.
Okay, so Councilor Lentz, I received an email from you regarding this. Would you like to speak to it first, please?
Yes, please. I'd like to propose that in addition to council receiving the emails that are submitted for open public comment and staff archiving them, that they're also compiled into a PDF for the meeting that they're associated with and attached to the grid file for that meeting. It's not the same as the public being able to come and speak at the microphone, but it at least allows the public to hear what their neighbors are saying at public comment, and would also potentially reduce unnecessary public records requests. My request would be that I'd like to further propose that if we do that, that we not just go do it moving forward, but as staff has time, they also do it retroactively to when we began meeting virtually, so that we can have all of the public comment for this period that we've been under this new way of doing business accounted for in the record that the public can access.
Is there further discussion?
Madam Chair.
Councilor Rowe.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, I would think, Kathleen, unless there's some compelling reason that we don't have the capacity to do it, which I would think that we could do it, that we do include all the public comment, attach it to the meeting, and it's available for people to review. And if we can go back, I mean, everything's all electronic anyway, so it's just gathering those records and compiling them and attaching them. So unless there's some, capacity or compelling issue why we couldn't do it, I would fully support having all that available for folks to take a look at without having to file a public records request to do it.
Kathleen, since this has been kind of part of the conversation via email, I'm wondering if you've had a chance to maybe talk with staff or find out if there are glitches at all with doing this, or.
No, it's not staff intensive. We would just take any of the public comments submitted through the portal or emails that specifically say for the public record. We can scan that into a PDF and add that online. I do want to make the clarification, though, that we can, if there's emails coming to the general correspondence email or to the counselors that specifically state for the record, then we'll include them. If they're just emails coming to the council sharing opinion, we're not including those. We do encourage our community to use the portal, but not everybody is doing that. So as long as it specifically states that, we can certainly scan that and post that online.
I think that sounds great. And I don't know whether there could be instructions for people if they, I think most people understand that emails that come into the county council are, at least available through public record request. However, these things that, for instance, this public comment that has come in just recently, I mean, that obviously would be made part of that. And I would agree that it should be those things that are mentioned as for the public record or public comment specifically. And if it might be good actually to maybe make that known on the website as well. I'm not sure about, that's what I would say. Is that difficult to mention that to the public, that, if they actually have a specific thing that they would like on the public record officially on the grid, that is, because the other things are public record, a matter of public record, but you'd have to ask for you'd have to request that.
So we do have on the council meeting agenda from the beginning, we have a big banner on the top that says to submit public comment, please click here. But we can't reach all the constituents, and so definitely if there's still emails, we have let a few people know when they sent an email, so please use that site. They continue to send the email, so we're going to continue to attach them to the record per their request.
Okay, thank you. So what was that a motion actually, Councillor Lentz? And if it was a motion, perhaps we need, and was it seconded?
Madam Chair, I had seconded it, but I have a
Okay, all right.
comment. So I just assumed from the very beginning of this that when it was going to be made part of the record, that it was going to be easily accessible to the public. So I guess that wasn't true. So some of this discussion and the emails we've received over the last few weeks have kind of highlighted the lack of the public record. So I'm all in favor of this, but I'm really wondering, not knowing how much longer this is going to go on for, and none of us could have possibly anticipated these constraints on our open public meetings would have possibly gone on this long. You know, we have no input available for our public, really. And I'm wondering, within the constraints of our software, our capability through IT, I would really advocate that we look hard at allowing public comment again. And we've already had some criticism of the equestrian meeting that we're going to do today, although we're doing the best to move that forward and making it a public process. You know, there's no give and take. There's no one in person. You know, the heart and soul of our democracy are town hall meetings, if you will, and we are so far removed from that right now. I think we need to really rethink this. What I'm advocating for is we allow back to the 3 minutes for people to chime in, if that we can give them that opportunity within the IT infrastructure that we have, until such time that we can start having public meetings again where people can actually come in. No doubt we'll still have to socially distance and wear masks for a good long period of time. So I fully endorse what's been discussed by email and otherwise, but I'm also asking that we, at all of our public sessions again, where we used to have public mic time, that we provide that again.
Okay, but right now what we're dealing with, Counselor, I believe, is at least posting this. And until then, until and unless we don't find a way to do this vocally, at the very least, we will move these comments that are written comments to the grid. I think the one thing, my concern, even about the silent, you know, the things going to the grid, was sometimes some of this information really is erroneous. In other words, it has error in it. But as I recall, in reality, when we take public testimony, people have the opportunity to say whatever it is they want for 3 minutes. And ordinarily, we don't correct what they're saying anyway. So I want to put that out there, because often with public testimony, they don't have all of the information. And sometimes it helps to be able to clarify some of what is stated by the public, so that other people who are looking or hearing this testimony, looking at or hearing this testimony, can know what maybe is the other side. So for right now, I think what the motion is to allow this public comment to go on a PDF with that particular meeting and placed on the grid. That's what I understand is on the table right now. So if there's no further discussion on that, or if there is more discussion, I would entertain that, but I'd like to go ahead and vote on that if there's not.
All right.
Okay.
Councillor Meviji, you're muted.
Oh.
It did flip to mute, unmute. Anyway, I'd make a friendly amendment that absolutely we need to have these public comments made public and post them. But the friendly amendment is that we also open up for public comment once again, as within our capability. I'm not saying that we have the capability. That's something for the manager to look into. I mean, that's originally why we suspended the rules and cut out the public comment because we didn't know what we could do by Zoom and otherwise. But I think we've been into this for many months now, and we should be able to open it up for additionally for public comment.
Councillor Lentz, would you entertain that friendly amendment?
I would, and Councillor Medvedev, I agree with you. I think it's important, and I've mentioned before that I'd like to see us figure out a way to bring that back. May I friendlily amend the friendly amendment to ask, in addition to what we're already talking about with putting the PDFs on the grid, that we ask staff to explore what solutions there are for us bringing public comment back as quickly as possible online, and to bring those options back to us at their nearest opportunity.
Councillor Medvedev, does that friendly amendment to your friendly amendment work for you?
Madam Chair, I'm sorry. Can we?
Yeah.
I have a request, councilors, if we could separate these two issues.
Sure.
Because I have, if we start talking about open public comment and a live and people online at the same time, I'm not objecting to that at all. But part of the reason we moved our meetings to the evening was to allow people access to our meetings. And so I think if we start talking about actual public comment, live, and I'd like to broaden that conversation about when we have these meetings and the general framework of the meetings going forward. So I would request that we maybe separate these two items and we vote on the what we're doing now. And
actually, Councillor Olson, what we will do is we will vote on these amendments first. And we've already had that action. So I guess that could be a friendly amendment to the friendly amendment.
I'd just like to
I think just as a point of order, I don't think the amendment addresses the substance of what the original motion was. So I don't feel like it's an appropriate amendment. I'm not opposed to having the discussion, but I think to Councillor Olson's points, I don't see how this follows Robert's rules in terms of the amendment is talking about a subject very different from what the original motion was. So I would just raise that as a point of order, just to handle them separately so that we can give clear guidance and not have a confuddled motion as it seems to be right now.
Yeah, we don't have a parliamentarian here, and I don't have my Robert's Rules for Dummies right in front of me, but let's go back to the original motion, if we could. The motion was that we place written public comment on a PDF on the grid with the particular meeting at which the comment was made. Is that correct?
Yes.
Does council agree that that is the motion and second in motion? So I see heads nodding. Let's go ahead and vote on that motion. All in favor say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Now, is there another motion?
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
No, I was waiting for you. I thought you wanted to make it, but you didn't say anything right away. Go ahead.
So as related, as this is, because we won't even need to post public comment if people actually make public comment, I propose that we look at the capability again to see how, what are the constraints for allowing public comment, whether it's 2 minutes or back to the 3 minutes, and that we take all steps to immediately look into that and then bring the conversation back and say, here's what we can do. We can allow 5 people, we can allow 10 people, whatever we can do within the software architecture that we have.
So if would you please state that in motion form, Councillor Medvedev?
Make a motion that we allow public comment on these internet-based meetings that we're now having.
I understood that you wanted to look at the ability to do this and then come back and, if it is possible, do that. Am I incorrect in that, Counselor?
I certainly think it's an implied task. So if it's not possible, then I don't think we will be able to do it. So if we need to give the manager a little bit of time to research this, then we'll come back and see what we're capable of doing.
Madam Chair. I just have a question about process here. Emily, do we actually need a formal motion to provide Kathleen direction to look into this?
No.
Okay. I don't want to
Go ahead,
overcomplicate
Nod.
things, I guess. Yeah.
We do have a motion on the floor, however. Is there a second? And I believe the motion is to actually have staff look at the capability of having public comment verbally, if we have the technology and the ability to do that. I don't see a second to that motion. Can we just, we will just then give direction for the staff to look into the possibility of taking public testimony, keeping in mind actually what was stated by Councillor Olson, that when we determined a couple of years ago that we were going to have our meetings in the evening, would that require us then to move our meetings to the evening? So something to think about. I think that concludes our old business, and I don't see any new business on the agenda. So moving to councillor reports.
Madam Chair.
Oh, Councillor Blunt.
So just following up on the question last week about the work the city and the county have been doing, we reviewed a draft and sent that over to the city for the executive board to address homelessness in a more joint fashion. We're expecting to have their answer in terms of whether or not everything is good, and then be bringing that back in the next week or two for the full council discussion. So I know it was a topic of discussion last week. Just wanted to give an update that I think we're there. We've gone back a couple times, back and forth a couple times with revisions, and should have a final product soon.
Thank you, Councillor Blum. The other thing I would like to bring up is Kathleen and I meet on a monthly basis with Identity Clark County. And this past time that we met, we had a discussion about the possibility, and it was lightly mentioned yesterday when we approved the Leichner property warranty deed. But ICC has sent a letter to the council, or to me, and to the county manager regarding considering the county and the city working together for a public works location at the same place, and the Leichner property being that place, prior to, a lot of the engineering that's going to go into the plan for the city. And I can forward that letter to you, but I think, what it does is it frees up the property on 78th Street for more economic development. Basically, that's what they've said too, is that would free up some space for us. And the whole proposition of the city and the county working together, I think, is such a good one. And it seems like we're, kind of coming to being able to do that on the homeless issue, et cetera. So I wanted to pass that on to you, and I will, if I didn't look at who all, I guess this just came to myself and Kathleen Otto, but I will send this letter forward to you folks. But I don't know if you have any comment on that, but I'm going to forward this letter to you that came from Identity Clark County to have us really consider to work together with the city of Vancouver on a public works place.
I'm sure.
Together. Yeah, Councillor Olson.
did they send the same letter to the city of Vancouver? I mean, I think it's sort of, I don't want to get the cart before the horse here. I mean, have conversations taken place with the city and, I mean, I'm just, it's.
I'm sure they've mentioned it to the city. This particular letter didn't seem to be addressed to anybody but Kathleen and I right now.
Okay, I mean, I think it seems to me we would want to probably check in with them about the possibility, I mean, yeah, anyway.
Of course, that's why we're opening the conversation. This is just to open, sort of plant a seed about the possibility of starting to have a conversation. I'm pretty sure that ICC has talked to the city, but I don't see them addressed on this formal letter.
And then I wonder from a policy perspective, what the county manager's role is versus the council's role. So at some point, get some clarification on that too.
Okay, moving on to other councilor reports.
I just want to highlight some emails that we're all getting regarding the difficulty, Kathleen, and people trying to register for the equestrian meeting tonight. I did see that Mitch responded, but it's come from a number of sources where people weren't able to get a code and log in to be speaking tonight.
I thank you for that feedback, because I personally have not seen any issues come through. I've seen one constituent who had concerns with regards to having a limited number of people in the process, but the individuals who've signed up, I personally have not seen any concerns or issues with logging in. So I will certainly follow up with Mitch. Thank you for the feedback.
Okay. Any other councilor reports? Moving on to work session requests.
Good morning, councilors. This is Matt Herman. So on July 22nd of this year, you authorized staff to process a Title 40 code amendment regarding pedestrian access ways through the public process. On September 3rd, we received DEEB's recommendation, Development Engineering Advisory Board's recommendation, as well as the bicycle and pedestrian recommendation. On October 15th, we're scheduled to have a public hearing in front of the Planning Commission, which we're hoping to receive their recommendation at that time. This work session request is an opportunity for the council to discuss this prior to a public hearing. The public hearing is scheduled for December 1st. That was just moved from yesterday. So the work session request says November 17th. The public hearing is actually going to be on December 1st. We have developed a website that provides all of the recommendations, the proposed code amendment that's available on the Public Works website. But we wanted to file this work session request to give the council the option to discuss this prior to the public hearing.
Okay, any questions? I would presume that you would all like to have a work session on this. Any objection to a work session? Hearing and seeing none, I guess we will schedule that. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Lindsay, do you have any update on policy issues?
No update from me this morning. Thank you.
Okay, and we don't have any executive session scheduled, correct, Emily?
That is correct.
Okay. Anything else for the good of the order? All right. Thank you very much. We are adjourned.